what do you say we get into a little bit of the news, a little bit of some
Yes.
other things that we've been talking about, which is something that I've been really interested to get your thoughts on, which is Amazon Prime has shown us a little bit about Fallout, their series coming in 2024. I'm going to do a little screen share before I jump into this little story here. Let's see, boom shakalaka. I'm still getting used to this second screen that I'm using, and there it comes. So I'm pulling from Variety here for a little bit about the show, if you haven't played Fallout, so that you know what we're talking about. This is Anthony Brisnican at Vanity Fair, not Variety. Fallout often looks like the distant past, but it's really the far off future. And actually, it's the end of life as we know it. In the new series debuting on Amazon Prime Video on April 12, a nuclear war breaks out across Earth in the year 2077, which is or was an era of robots, hover cars, and a deep, abiding nostalgia for the America of the 1940s. Everything from the clothes to the entertainment to the vehicles mimic the look of that bygone age, albeit with a sci-fi tilt. That retro futuristic aesthetic was one of the charms of the mega-selling video game series that inspired the show. Mass Extinction, is just the starting point for Fallout, which was developed for TV by Westworld creators and husband and wife, Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. After the incendiary mushroom clouds, the story flashes forward 219 years. How did humanity fare over those blighted 2 centuries? So, what I have shared here on the screen, if you're just listening, I have a little bit of a screen share happening, showing some images, some screenshots from the show, and I want to talk about them, Cayman. I want to get your thoughts and kind of feel, what are what's our excitement level for Fallout now that we're seeing some of these images. So this first one that we see looks like, I would assume, a father and daughter inside whatever vault that they're in, but you might recognize, if you're watching the video, that's Ella Purnell from Yellow Jackets, a show that Cayman and I both enjoyed very much.
Yes.
It seems like she's going to be one of the main characters, if not the main character, but that they're wearing that iconic blue and yellow vault outfit. Really enjoying kind of the aesthetic they're already bringing to it.
Is that Kyle MacLachlan next to her?
Let's see. The article mentions Ella Purnell and mentions Walton Goggins, but I didn't pull the entire article.
Okay. So
Jump over to Vanity Fair and see it. But yeah, actually, what are your thoughts? I'll pull it up.
Yeah, so the first thing was that threw me was the love of the 1940s, and I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? This is like 50s, early 60s. Okay,
Sure.
that threw me. Vanity Fair, get your journalist in check, you fuckers. So these look. Here's the thing. I think the first mistake a lot of adaptations make is that they don't follow the source material to certain degrees. I think that you can pass a lot of shit off by changing a lot of details, but I think one of the big things people want, and I think something that we're starting to finally see with like superhero shit, is that they're starting to finally be like, okay, we don't have to make everything look different. We can put fucking Wolverine in his yellow and blue, right?
Yeah.
I love the fact that like the vault suits look exactly the same. Eventually, we'll get to the Brotherhood of Steel photo, and that looks so fucking amazing.
Okay, so here's the Brotherhood of Steel photo here.
Yeah, like that's spot on. That
looks
like that
great.
It looks exactly like it does in the video game, and that's I think the big thing here is that like the attention to detail to that's what drives fans, right? This is what gets fans excited. Now, there's going to be lore. There's going to be little things like Easter eggs. Like I think Twisted Metal did a really good job of that, but I don't think Twisted Metal had as much there as like Fallout has, right?
Yeah.
Where like we're getting photos and stuff that they've released of like what did the mutants look like, and like oh shit, like they're missing the ghouls missing noses, like perfect. That's spot on, man.
Yeah.
So this Brotherhood of Steel photo right here, this is the perfect one.
It looks so good, and especially like, seeing the size next to the human.
Yeah, and it's like that's exactly what we want. It's really what we want, right?
Yeah,
I have a lot of faith that this show, at least for aesthetically, is going to nail it. I have a lot of faith that this is going to be great. I really think this might actually be a fun show. We might
I think so
have
too.
Another, I don't know if it'll be like the Last of Us level, like winning Emmys and shit like that. But
sure.
like, I think this is going to be a ton of fun. I think we are in that heyday of like, fuck, we got Carl Urban, who's going to be in the new Mortal Kombat film, playing Johnny Cage.
Yep.
Love that, right? Twisted Metal was so much fucking fun. And if I'm not mistaken, they announced it's getting renewed for a second season. The Last of Us was incredible. Halo was dog shit. But guess
So
what?
bad.
The Sonic movies were fucking amazing. And Sonic
Yeah.
hasn't had a good video game in like 20 years. So
Yeah.
like Chris Pratt as Mario was
Yeah.
not bad.
It was good.
So
It was a good movie.
I think we're finally starting to treat video games as like an actual mainstream thing, where I think before we just kind of were like, this is a cash grab. I think
I
they're
agree.
genuinely treating video games like this is, and maybe it's because their audience is our age, their audience is in their 30s, 40s now. So they're like, yeah, like these people don't want this bullshit,
For sure. And I think the thing that feels different to me about this, what I feel like is like the first golden era of video game adaptations, is they're getting the right people to do the jobs. Like with
Yeah.
this, hearing that it's Christopher Nolan and Lisa Joy Nolan, who, say what you will about the last like season and a half of Westworld, those first couple seasons were fucking incredible. And putting this kind of a story in those kinds of creators' hands, right? I think of Craig Mazin for The Last of Us.
Mm.
It's like when you're finding the right home for these jobs, and then you're also, thank you, Jordan. It's Jonathan Nolan, not Christopher. When you're putting these jobs in the right people's hands, people who have something to say, who are really talented at what they do, and you're not just like, it's not the studio, or rather the game company just going to like some random studio and be like, hey, we want to make money off of this. What do you think about making this into a movie? It's like, that's not how this is going to work. We need to make sure someone actually has something to say with this. And I think something that seems interesting about this show, from my understanding, it's taking place in Los Angeles, which is a setting that we've not seen in any Fallout game before. And so I've seen some kind of speculation on the internet, because so I've here pulled up Walton Goggins as the character that they're calling the Ghoul. But for those of you, or those of us that have played the game, we know that ghouls are just like a person. It's not like one person. It's several people who have like so much radiation poisoning from living out in the wasteland that like they don't have a nose, and they look how Walton Goggins looks on this screen here, and they're often treated as like second-class citizens within the video game world. But so all of that to say, there's been some speculation, like, is because we're in this new area, is he like the only ghoul, and that's why he's called the Ghoul? So like, I'm interested to see like what kind of new story they bring to the Fallout world, since we're in a setting that we've not been in before. But yeah, I agree. Terry in the chat at first was like, I don't know how I'm feeling, but now, okay, this looks amazing. Jordan, these promo shots are legit. Like, I'm very impressed with the way that these shots look, and how they seem to be capturing some of the most important parts of Fallout, which is that sense of like awe coming out of the vault, which is, we had that screenshot that was on the screen for a minute. And then those really interesting, deep characters that I think Walton Goggins is perfect for. Like, the thing that makes a Fallout world feel magical is all those characters that you run into, and the side quests you fall into, and all these like weird encounters that you have. And actors like Walton Goggins are perfect for that kind of thing. So like, it feels like it's hitting all the right beats so far in just the first thing that they've shown us. And again, like Ella Purnell I think was really good in Yellow Jacket. So I'm excited. And I did confirm this is Kyle MacLachlan playing her father in that first screenshot.
Hell yeah. Love Kyle MacLachlan. I think the one thing I want to see from this, Patrick, and this is like a really weird request, and I don't think they'll do it, but like part of me feels like if you want to do this the right way, you have to do this, is that in like episode 2 or episode 3, that our main character that we follow has to end up wearing an outfit that's just made up of random mishmash parts that looks like absolute shit.
Yes, I agree.
Because that's every game, Fallout, Starfield, the Elder Scrolls games, you always end up that early on. You end up with like boots that don't match, pants that don't match, shirts that don't match a helmet.
Hilarious.
Like, you
I hope so.
I really hope they give us that, right?
And the best news is this is it's coming within 6 months. Like we still haven't gotten an official trailer. They showed a trailer at some con that hasn't been officially released to the public yet, but so I'm assuming we'll probably get a trailer here in the next few weeks. We might even get one at the Game Awards, perhaps, which might be something that we talk about later in the show. But before we get to that, Cayman, I want to talk about a story that I just think is so interesting, and it's about a game that we've talked about several times on this show, The Simpsons Hit and Run. So we're taking a bit of a blast to the past here to talk about what could have been with The Simpsons Hit and Run. So this is from Chris Scullion at VGC. The Simpsons Hit and Run publisher, quote, said no to a deal to make 5 more Simpsons games. Its producer has now claimed. In an interview with MinMax, the game's producer, John Melchior, was asked what happened to the planned Hit and Run 2 game, which was in the works at Radical Entertainment, who had developed the first game. Melchior explained that at least 2 Simpsons games were in development and that publisher Vivendi Universal Games was given the option to make 5, but rejected it. Quote, Simpsons Hit and Run 2 would have been done by Radical, and there was a medieval Simpsons game that Matt Groening pitched, which was being done at Stormfront after Lord of the Rings, which, sidebar, Stormfront Lord of the Rings games are the ones that we've been talking about recently. The Two Towers, The Return of the King, the movie tie-in games. That's who Stormfront is, by the way. So they were going to be making a medieval Simpsons game. Apparently,
man.
The article goes on to say the biggest crime was that Vivendi did not obtain the Simpsons license, though they had an offer in. The Simpsons came back with an offer, 5 games for X amount of dollars. It was a really good deal, and Vivendi said no after the success of Hit and Run. Asked why Vivendi turned down the deal, Melchior said he didn't know, but confirmed that work had already begun on the sequel. Quote, I don't know, he replied. They did games like Cold Winter and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which were dog shit. And to everybody's credit here, the sequel had airships, we had planes, we had lots to go on The Simpsons. This was going to be a franchise, no doubt, in anyone's mind. He then added, and this is the heartbreaker for me, he then added that EA was able to come in and buy the license with $80 million so that they could make their own games in every level. They could reference their own games in every level. He's referring to the Simpsons game that EA then made a few years later, which contains numerous references to EA games and developers. So essentially, EA came in and threw $80 million at the Simpsons so that they could have the license, so that all these games ended up not happening. Because at first it's like they go to Vivendi and we're like, if you make 5 games, we'll give you a bunch of money, which I think is a fair thing to say no to. Like, that's a really big commitment to make 5 games.
That's
so I understand that part of it.
That time, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, who knows how long one game took to develop then. But then the article goes on to kind of just talk a little bit more about like some of the other things that they had talked about, including in the sequel. But man, we almost had Hit and Run 2, Cayman. Can you believe that?
The world sucks, Patrick.
When I was reading this at first, I was like so interested, like, oh, cool, this is like a fun little piece of video game history. And then by the end of it, I'm like, man, that is fucking depressing. That EA, who at one point was voted the worst company in America, came in and kind of ruined the day here.
I wouldn't be shocked if whatever, yeah, man, that's such a bummer too, because I always look back, like I mean, we've talked about it enough times to know that like both of us are huge fans of Hit and Run. And it's like one of my favorite nostalgia games. But I can look back at that too without the rose tinted glasses and say like, yes, there were issues with this particular game that like I think a sequel could have done so much more and made such a better version it would have gotten away from like take out a little bit less of the car combat or like the car portions and have more, exploring on the ground kind of stuff like they do in GTA. I think would have been awesome. And the truth is too, is like Simpsons have been on air now for over 30 years. There's no stopping this. Like, I think they're renewed for another few more seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Like, the Simpsons aren't going anywhere. It's a treasure trove of shit that you can do. And it's like, there's so many things. I went back and like rewatched like a shit ton of Simpsons of last year. Yeah. And like, there's so many stories you can tell within that universe. So many weird little characters that you could bring in. So many things you can do. That's such a bummer that the truth is, we'll never see a hit and run remake. We'll never see a hit and run 2. This shit is
Mhm.
just gonna sit with EA amongst their plethora of dead franchises and IP that will
Yeah.
just sit in a graveyard because they will never sell that shit off. And no one's gonna be able like they're not gonna waste money to do it. They'll just keep making fucking mobile games like Simpsons tapped
And
out.
I would love because the guy that Melchior in this article, he doesn't work with the company anymore. Like, I would love to hear, like, does EA still own the license for Simpsons in terms of video games? And like, if not, is someone like, has anyone like talked about maybe buying it? Or there's like so many. This opens up so many questions for me that I would love answers for that I probably will never get. But I thought it was just a really interesting thing that I never would have expected to hear. But here we are. So yeah, let us know what you thought about that because I just found it super super interesting.